The year is 2020, and one of your New Year's resolutions might be to read more this year. But you might not have read a book since high school, maybe not even then. Or for you, you might not even really like reading. You've tried it, but you don't like it, but you know that it is important. Whatever your case might be, I want to give you in this video 10 easy steps that will help you become a more voracious, prolific, and other big words reader this year. Let's get right into this with number 10, which is read less. That's right, the first one that I'm giving you sounds counterintuitive. Read less in order to read more. What I mean by that is this. You need to set reasonable goals when it comes to reading. If you've never read a book before, you haven't read a book in a long time, then setting a goal of 10 is just going to cause you to feel and be defeated. And so if you haven't read in a long time, reading one book this year is going to be success because you haven't read a book in the previous years. Reading one book is good. Now, I'm not saying just set a goal of one book for the year. If you think you can do two, do two. If you think you can do five, but read less in order to read more. Moving straight ahead to number 9, find a genre that you like. A lot of conversations that I've had with people about reading that don't necessarily like reading is often because that they've had a bad experience with books in the past. Here's the cool thing. Not all books are like the others. All books are so different. There are so many different genres. That means the type of book or the type of literature that you're reading. You've got fantasy and sci-fi, mystery and young adult. You've got historical fiction. You've got romance, the mystery. There's so many different kinds of genres. If you don't like one, find another. There's a genre, I'm convinced, for everyone. There's a genre for everyone, and there's definitely one that you'll like as well. Number 8, in relation to the previous one, is find an author that you like. Not all authors are equal. Some are really good and some are really bad. Even the authors whose names you might know or be aware of or are topping certain charts are not going to be the ones that you might prefer. We all like certain kinds of tone and writing and dialogue, and that's going to differ from author to author. So find someone that writes how you like or what you enjoy. And once you do, then you might be able to read one book for the price of 3. You might come across one and actually get that book finished, and you like that author and that genre and that series and the characters and stories so much that you might go on to its sequel. And if a lot of authors are writing in trilogies nowadays, that you might be able to even read 3 books again for the price of 1. My 7th tip on how to read more this year is to start small. You might find a huge, massive literary tome that looks good or you've heard is really good. Don't start with that. Start much smaller. I remember when I was in elementary school, I would always go to the school library, and Treasure Island, the name and the cover of the book looked amazing. So I always went back to that. I never once finished the book, and I'm sure it's a great book, but at the time I was super young and that book was too big for me. And so same for you. Don't start big, start small. Find a book, and there are many, that has 200 pages or less. I think that's probably a good max for one of your first books in a long time. And then, or you can even start smaller than that, and then after you finish that book, it will kind of snowball effect. You finished a book, you'll feel really good about yourself, and you'll be able to do another book, and then possibly another book. You need to start small. Number 6 is be consistent. It takes time to create a habit, so take the time that is needed. For you, that might mean that you just need to read a chapter a day. That's completely okay, because that's going to build up over time, and then you're going to have read a book because you're doing a chapter at a time. Even if you do a half chapter, or listen, this is crazy, right? Start with just a paragraph, 15 minutes before you go to bed at night. As long as you're consistent, that consistency is going to pay off. Number 5, related to the last one, is set a time and place. Don't just read whenever you have the time. You're never going to have the time. You've heard it before. You've got to make time for the things that you love or want to do. And so the same is true for reading. You need a time and place that you're going to do every day or every week. You need to find that comfortable chair in your house that you love. You could also read from the bed, although that is somewhat dangerous. Maybe you like to read first thing in the morning or 30 minutes before you go to sleep at night. For some of you, you've got a busy schedule. Read over lunch. Go to the lunchroom, grab your burrito or your peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and knock a chapter out. Find a consistent time and place, whatever works for you, and do it. Tip number 4 is eliminate distractions. Phones are a wonderful thing, but if you're getting a vibrating text message every 5 minutes, a lot sooner than that for most of you, then that is going to distract you from being able to read. For a second, put your phone on silent, maybe even on the dreaded airplane mode, and get some work done. Turn off the TV, disconnect Netflix, or turn off Disney Plus, sign out for just a moment, and stop with all the distractions. Even if people, kids or friends or spouses, boyfriend, girlfriend, send them out of the room, 15 minutes, stop with the distractions, put your face in a book, and read. Number 3 is one of my most favorites, and that is experiment with new methods. My reading really took off when I stopped just reading paperback and I started reading ebooks on my phone and also listening to audiobooks. In my personal opinion, all of that is legitimate reading, and it's going to be different degrees, but it's still reading. And so I often, when I'm in the shower, I've got a Bluetooth speaker. I'm listening to an audiobook. On my commute while I'm driving, I'm listening to an audiobook. I've got my ebook on my phone so that when I'm in maybe social situations in which bringing out earbuds or a paperback wouldn't be acceptable, I can still get some reading done. Nothing replaces a good book in your hand, but you can try out some new methods and also bring in ebooks and or audiobooks into your life. Number 2 is read with a friend. This is all about accountability, having someone else in your life that you're doing something with. That always makes creating a new habit something that is sustainable because you're doing it with somebody else. It's also fun to talk about the book that you're reading with someone else. Read the same book and start a little mini book club. You don't have to tell anybody about it. It can just be between you and another person, but it's always fun to be able to talk about the reveals with one another, to talk about your expectations about what's going to happen, and then again, to keep one another accountable so that if you're saying, hey, let's read 3 chapters by next week so over lunch we can talk about what happens, that is always fun and will keep you accountable and will help you to read more. Number 1 should be no surprise to anyone. It is follow a BookTube channel. You're more than welcome to stay here at Dragon Army Books or find one of the other tens of thousands of BookTube channels that are on the internet. BookTube is simply YouTube channels that are about books. This is good for inspiration. This is good to find out about new books or books that you haven't heard of yet. And most importantly, it's good to be a part of a community that is centered around books and love for reading. Even if you're not there yet, find a community that you can be a part of. You're more than welcome to be here. We love to have you. Hopefully this video has been helpful for you and you are going to read more books in the year 2020. I'd love to know your thoughts in the comment section down below. What tactics or tips would you work for you and would you give out to others? Make sure you do all the things. Join Dragon Army by clicking subscribe, bell notification, and thumbs up, all of that good stuff, and we'll see you in the next video.